agency. And so what we do is we help founders who have quality vision for their life, for their businesses and more, try to one, help them really think deeply about what does that mean? What are your core differentiators? Because it's really easy both in personal and business life to kind of jump in and say, man, I have high ambition and I want to reach these goals. And it's like, great, let's make sure those goals are measurable and then work backwards on how we're actually going to get there. And so through a marketing lens, we help basically, people really quickly identify their story, their core differentiators, build out different forms of creative and traffic driving activities to drive the people who want to learn who you are and want what you're selling, et cetera, to the places that they need to go. And then we help them manage.
Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by my man, Audley Stevenson, the Odd Man. He'll unpack wisdom and insights from a cross-section of top quality performers in business, media, sports, entertainment, and lifestyle to uncover key elements to help you live your best audacious life ever. So without further ado, here is the Odd Man.
Greetings and salutations, folks. It's Audley Stevenson back for another edition of hands down the most audacious podcast the internet has to offer. This is the Audacious Living Podcast, and I appreciate you for being here as we continue our ongoing goal of helping our listeners live their best audacious lives ever. As always, I encourage you to catch up with us on our social media channels. We're on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook under the handle The Audacious Pod. Or if you're watching on YouTube, then all you got to do is tap that bell down below, and that way you're staying connected to all great things audacious related. Now, on this episode of the Audacious Living Podcast, we're going to chat about personal growth and development. And we're going to take a look at it from a completely different angle because we're going to use examples from the business world. You see, every organization reaches a point where they need to expand and grow in order to get better. It's like that old adage says, what got you here won't get you there. Now, Tyler Horsley is a business growth expert as well as an investor and philanthropist who helps businesses grow to the next level. And he's here to chat about the work that he does in helping founders grow their businesses, what the process looks like, and why adaptation is the key to business success. I'd suggest you pulling out a pen and paper because it's an informative chat chocked with a bunch of relevant thoughts that can be applied to our personal lives that I'm sure you all enjoy. So without any further ado, here's my conversation with Tyler Horsley. Enjoy. Hey, Tyler, thank you for joining me here on the Audacious Living Podcast. It's a pleasure to hang out with you like this. Thank you.
Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no, it's great. I always talk about how much I appreciate when people come and hang out and we get these great dialogues about topics that I think are important to us in our success in life and whether it be business or in our personal life. And so I think this fits well as a growth advisor and maybe I'll get you to sort of talk about your work that you do in your world as a starting point. But yeah, I just think it's a natural fit. So maybe that's where we can start a little bit.
I'm in. Let's dive in.
Yeah. And so there. Again, how about this? Give us, the 411 on the work that you do and who you work with as a starting point. Because what I think, and again, we'll get into it, is what you're doing in the business world for your business and how you grow and how you scale and how you evolve. There's some similarities to what we do in our personal lives. So, again, so this isn't a business podcast, but I think we're going to learn a few things today.
Sure. Yeah, quick 411. Currently the CEO at Nuclear Networking, and as you mentioned, business growth advisory and business growth agency. And so what we do is we help founders who have quality vision for their life, for their businesses and more, try to one, help them really think deeply about what does that mean? What are your core differentiators? Because it's really easy both in personal and business life to kind of jump in and say, man, I have high ambition and I want to reach these goals. And it's like, great, let's make sure those goals are measurable and then work backwards on how we're actually going to get there. And so through a marketing lens, we help basically, people really quickly identify their story, their core differentiators, build out different forms of creative and traffic driving activities to drive the people who want to learn who you are and want what you're selling, et cetera, to the places that they need to go. And then we help them manage those leads and close them. So that is a 30,000 foot, 30-second thing, but
I get you.
Yeah.
And how do you personally land on this as a direction of work? I mean, the whole idea of helping businesses scale up, I would imagine, is very rewarding.
It is.
And the idea of watching someone go to go from I want to say I'm here, right? It's got to be a wonderful process to be a part of.
Yeah, it's cool, man. I so kind of taking it. I was born and raised in the Midwest. Dad, every day before school and more, go out, feed and water the animals, come back in, go to school, get off of school, work a full-time job. But part of that was basically like trying to help create a better experience around you. And so I know this is it sounds like it might be a little generic related to business, but to your point, yeah, man, helping founders reach their goals, helping them grow revenue, helping them create a sustainable business environment where they employ other people, other families, they help feed other kids through those things. And we're not even talking philanthropy at this point, but yeah, it's very rewarding, right? And so I'm drawn to that. My first career was in federal law enforcement. Seems like a really random jump. Wasn't for me, by the way.
Gotcha. Hey, at least you recognize that. I mean, hey.
Yeah, I do. But I guess the heart behind it was I wanted to help people. And that's a different type of helping people. But this type of helping people, I'm able to engage and communicate and ideate with people and help them really put their goals down on paper in an achievable format and reach them, right? Because you get overwhelmed as a founder or as a person in general, a lot of high ambition, but not the map to get there. So it is quite rewarding helping people kind of put those two things together and give them the encouragement and the tools to reach those goals. So
I would imagine that you're coming across different founders who are at different points, right? That have some probably have a clear indication of where they want to be, and others kind of like feeling like they just want to grow or they just want to evolve. Yeah. What's that conversation like to sort of make that differentiation?
Mm-hmm. I think I didn't used to, but now we have the tool set to kind of be able to have all those types of conversations, right? Because to your point, you might have somebody dreaming, right? They're working a full-time job currently. They haven't made the leap yet. It takes a little bit of crazy to be an entrepreneur, right? And some faith. So they didn't make that leap yet. And so just helping them understand, like, there are tools out there, by the way, even for listeners, where you can, for free, you can find out how many people are searching for what you're going to do or what you want to sell in your area before you even spend any money at all.
Wow.
And any good marketing company should be able to kind of give you that data for free. But I can tell them, look, you have this idea. If you do this, 14,000 people a month in your area are looking for it, and nobody's here providing it. So the likelihood of you hitting a home run is pretty high. Or 30,000 people are already doing that. It's super expensive. Maybe we can rotate that. And so, I mean, both levels of clarity are good. But we do have, the higher level business owners, et cetera. Maybe they've been doing this for 20 plus years.
Sure.
Chipotle, Pepsi, we work with the bigger companies too, but they're just like, look, I know exactly what I need. I need you to fit right here. And so we'll do that too. But
it's interesting. We spend so much time on this podcast talking about boldness and audaciousness and how do you live your best life ever, best audacious life ever. And so one of the things that we've developed is something called the BOLD framework. Right, it's just an acronym, BOLD, and the B, which you will connect with, I think, is stands for better than you were yesterday. Right, it's understanding that what you did to get you to this point was fantastic, and celebrate that, and appreciate that, and enjoy that. But to go the next step requires a new line of thinking because it's not going to be the same things that got you there. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
So,
Yep.
and then since I talk about the framework, the O stands for last adversity, L means live your truth, and the D is disrupt the norms. But again, the B is all about growth, self-improvement, getting better, not being stagnant, and understanding that maybe the landscape of market has changed. Maybe things when you got going initially have become something different, and you've got to sort of figure that out all over again.
Right.
That has to be challenging for some business owners who are resting on their laurels of all their successes, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, you have a lot of different types of business owners. One of those individually, think about like legacy companies. If you inherited a company that your grandfather started, your father ran, and now you're running it, things that worked back then don't work anymore. It's different, right?
Right.
And you have like grandpa going, "What is TikTok?" And you're like, "Look, but yeah." So I mean, everything, the frameworks, just like personal life, it's going to be different for every individual. But I like the being better tomorrow than you were today. And some of the books, as an example, like I recently reread Atomic Habits, and you talk about habit stacking, or you talk about just being 1% better a day, just 1% better a month. It's like, man, it's 12% better a year. Like that matters, right? If you got 12% growth on an investment in the stock market, especially right now, you'd be pretty happy. So those are the types of thinking and frameworks. And I will just say too, related to this environment and some of the topics that you guys cover, as well as like, there is no successful business owner or successful business without these life practices that you're talking about, about constant improvement and focusing on that learning piece. And it's holistic. It's not just how do I become a better business person? It's like, how's your family? How's your health? How's your, you know what I mean? Like all these things matter because they all kind of flow into the buckets, right? So.
And well, even on that train of thought, I mean, we talk about, so the O in the framework is outlasting adversity. And you show me a business is not going to face some form of adversity, right? And quite frankly, it's survive or die if you don't.
Yep. Right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'd say what is it? Adaptation is the key to business success, right? It's not even. I think some business owners, even people just in general, whatever your personal goals are, even if they're not business related, there's kind of intimidation factor. It's like, man, I don't really know if I can do this. It's two things I've learned. One is comparison is the killer of joy. So you can look at people that you look up to and say, man, I really want to be like this person, but you're not going to, they might have put in 25 years of hard work to get where they're at. You're not going to get there in a second. But at the same point in time, adaptation is key to business success. You see huge companies going under when there's an economical change or a policy change, et cetera. And so, yeah, if you can learn to adapt, just, both physically, personally, and mentally, that's definitely going to be one of the markers of success.
And so on that, I think it's fair to say that when we talk about even just growth, adaptation is important, even from a growth standpoint. And we talk about success, but so we can get bigger and bolder and better.
Yeah. I always think, and I will say, like from a marketing lens alone, it used to be whoever's the biggest in the room is kind of the one who's going to win. And so, as an example, you have like your Walmarts, those types of things. And it's like, man, I'm trying to create maybe a clothing line or this, that, and the other. How could I ever compete? Well, luckily, the way that the world is moving, because there's so much noise, and I'll just nerd out with you for a second, but like algorithms are seeking niche expertise in a specific area. Right, or a specific knowledge base. So it's better to be really good at something specific, and you'll be noticed for that, versus trying to be great at a little bit of everything. You're going to have personal burnout. Your brand is just going to be kind of confusing and diluted. And when you are competing with Target and Walmart, instead of being like the best person that sells these kind of shoes, as an example.
You hear carve out your niche well, and you can focus on that. And the more you can drill down and be very clear on what you do, which is different than everyone else. And I think that's where you can find some success, because no one else is doing it, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're not doing it well, So yeah.
Fair enough. The idea of businesses evolving and growing and scaling, I would imagine even like the workforce is a big part of that too. Like it's one thing for the founder to say, hey, I want to grow, I want to get big, I want to get better, but you've got a company of however number of employees, your entire workforce that's got to be a part of this journey with you as well. And so what's the process in getting them on board? Because I would say that the regular rank and file, if you will, they're just concerned whether or not they still got a job, right? For the
Right.
most part, right?
That's right. Yeah, especially, and again, yeah, not to keep referencing current times, but that's definitely, there's certain cultures, certain times, and more in the past where people, they move from a mind frame of how do I continue to move up here or achieve my goals or be able to work from home more often to now, how do I keep my job? And so, to your point, getting cultural buy-in at an organization is pretty. I mean, it's crucial. It's not pretty important. It's the most important, right? You could be the craziest founder in the world, like a Steve Jobs. If you don't have anybody who's willing to work with you, good luck, right? So it's like one of the things that came to mind when you just asked me that was if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together, right? So, and that's certainly not mine. I would love to give credit where credit's due, but it's like, that's true, man. I mean, like visionaries, which founders, visionaries, these people with these vision, it's like one of the best ways I've been able to do that, and I still try to do better at that, is like help others reach their goals. They're not a cog in the wheel. They're not just checking in, checking out, and doing tasks. Like, what's their life look like? What are their goals? What's their family? That could be guitar lessons or learning how to skateboard or like more family time. And so,
ping pong table in the lunchroom.
What's that? Yeah.
Right?
Exactly. So those are the frameworks that I try to look at those, and it's easy to have it just be corporate banter and say those things, but to actually set aside time and do one-on-ones monthly with each of your staff members. If you have that, if you're running Amazon, you don't have that time, but most people listening that have startups or small companies under 10 million, et cetera, make time, right? Like talk to these people because you're going to build friendship. You'll build loyalty. There's reciprocity there. They know you're going to take care of them. They're going to take care of you. And that's something that I try to do quite a bit in some of my verticals that I own. So
what I'm hearing, and to paraphrase, I'm hearing culture building within the organization is kind of what we're talking about here. And I think what works when you have a culture or established framework of how we will operate collectively, and everyone knows what that is, it becomes easier for people to follow along, I would say. Is that?
Yeah, that's right. You need to know kind of where you're aiming, right? If everybody's kind of collectively doing their own thing, that gets pretty disorganized quickly. But not only just aiming in the right direction, but buy-in. Like we can go together. There's that teamwork, kind of like sports methodology, but like you can be together, survive together, and that's a more rewarding life experience. So, yeah.
Speaking of rewarding, I'd imagine that you've probably had some great experiences or stories of just successes in the companies that you work with. Any you could share?
Yeah, I can. I think the initial response for most business owners, and I almost go there too, is to brag about the biggest and the best, and I certainly can. But on a personal side, one of the companies that I am really proud of is elevate-people.com. And reason being, from a marketing side and a growth, and I meet these two founders, and they are working, burning the candle at both ends, and their core product is like a high-end leather bag, right, and leather products that they can sell. But what they're really doing in the background is they're empowering people in different parts of the world that otherwise would have no access to this capital. They're building kind of a micro GDP in companies within these places all over the world, India, Africa, Iraq, like everywhere. And they're empowering these individuals to basically create and sustain these businesses. And so these individuals are actually creating the products, and then they ship them to the States. This company sells them and continues to raise money to reinvest back into these folks. And so they've planted, 80 plus businesses. And I don't know, that's the stuff that growing revenue is one thing. Just like anybody, if you talk to, I live in Denver right now, so I have the privilege of being able to meet a lot of really cool ballers and football players and ads and all this, and like they can crush it. Like LeBron, I guess he's the GOAT now, but I mean, like you meet these people who just do really well at specific things. And that's good. And I guess for me, it's certainly not that. I'm not Duncan or anything, but like from a business standpoint, I can do that. But if you can have positive impacts with other people, and you're not just making money, but you're changing people's lives, That is the stuff that I'm most proud of currently, you know?
Gotcha.
So yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, much can be said about impact, Tyler. I mean, really, it can, and the impact that you have on others. And while I would imagine for some founders, it's about revenue in terms of
Yeah,
a market, right?
sure.
But that's not the only one, is it?
Revenue is certainly important. I mean, from a KPI or key performance indicator standpoint in business, what we're looking at, certainly, revenue keeps the lights on. You want to continue to grow, especially if you're a publicly traded company. Now you have duties to get and sometimes those levers work in the reverse of human good. I would say sometimes we just saw like 100,000 plus cuts from big tech, and you can't tell me all those people are happy about that
Sure.
they got let go. But yeah, we do. I'll give you the business professional term, but the reality behind it. But like we're doing NPS and ENPS, so Net Promoter Score. I want to know, is my team happy working here? Like, would they refer a friend? Would they refer a family member to work here? Are they enjoying their life?
Great question.
So we measure that every week here, and then again allowing the time for one-on-ones. But even outside of those, every business that we touch or every business owner that we work with, we're doing NPS scores with them too. How likely are you to refer somebody, and what's really underneath that? Not just, hey, can we have 5 stars? But it's like, how can we do better? How can we better serve you? And then being able to see the cascade effects. So there's a lot of good people in business, right? And like, if they have sustainable revenue for their staff, like, what more good could they do? And so those are the types of things that we think of outside of just revenue. It's retention. How long do we get to keep people here in the family, and how happy are they? And so those are just as important, I think, because they're all tied together.
Yeah, and I think there's some value in really being clear on what those are. Again, we know what the revenue is, how important that is, but there are other things that matter, and we need to, we have a handle on that because it gives you other areas to shoot for. And I think what it also does, it helps you to fortify that culture. Go back to that culture we talked about, right? When these other indicators are visible, they're known, and forget all that, they're being attained, right? Those other indicators are being attained. That does something for the culture.
Right. Yeah. So it's a retroactive report, right? So it's like doing that stuff, and I'm sure everybody hears it listening, but doing those things, just running the reports, isn't going to fix your culture. It's just a positive response. If you're hitting those numbers, if you're attaining them, that you're doing the right things, you're pouring into people, you're caring about their personal lives, and you're trying to do the best you can. Most founders, especially in the startup world, they're just trying to pay their own bills for a second.
Sure.
They're in debt. They've been going negative for a couple of years, trying to convert to profitability. So anyone and everyone in between have the privilege of kind of working with those folks and trying to help coach. And not everybody shares the same values. Yep. I'd say most people do, which I think gives people hope.
Got you. Yeah. So take me through this, Tyler. I mean, I'm the founder of the Audacious Living podcast company. And I come knocking on your door, and I'm like, look, man, it's time to take me to the next level. What does that process look like? What's it? I don't know if there's steps or specific things. What does that look like?
There is steps. or there are. So, right. So basically what we typically do is would love to have a discovery, right? Meet you, basically run you through what we call a value and offer creation workshop.
Okay.
And so it's actually 2 to 4 hours long. We run through all your core differentiators, and I'm going to use a couple different variations of businesses just so people can see the versatility in this workshop. But if you're a plumber or a roofer, and it's like, well, here's the biggest question everyone should be asking, whether it's in the employment and job world or they're starting their own company, is if I lined you up with 10 of your other competitors, or people doing similar things that you're doing, audiences that you're fighting for, right? And I put you in an auditorium, a full arena right before a big ball game, and you had 10 seconds, just 10, to tell them who you are, what your values are, what you're about. And that message has to be powerful, right? Because you need to be able to capture everybody's ears quickly. That's what that workshop does. And so basically we help define those core differentiators, what really separates you from everyone else. Right. Because if you start talking about generic values, honesty, integrity, it's like, that was Enron's values. They don't matter if they're not put into practice. So it's like, great, are you family owned? Do you give back? Like, are there guarantees? So if it's a
Right.
business owner, like I will guarantee you 150 closed leads or 10,000 new audience members or subscribers to your podcast, or you get your money back. And they're at an engagement rate of over 60%. Like you can start thinking about what do I do really well? Who do I help? Back to you, it's like listener base and more. If we can really understand the profile and build that out, now we know who we are. So it's like it's really hard to convince people to come follow us if we don't know who we are ourselves, right? And so then we move forward to the next piece, and it's like now that we know who we are and who we want to work with, help, be in conversation with, even through a podcast medium, then we move on to how do we go find more of those people who don't yet know that we exist, and that's called lookalike audience targeting. And so we'll build profiles of people that already follow you, go to the world, and then on the backside, once we've started ramping up numbers, now it's like, how do we reach more? Now we move into like the Mr. Beast YouTube world where we start transcribing all of your podcasts into Spanish, into Mandarin, into this, into that. Now you're reaching billions of people with the same message. And as a founder, you can syndicate that content. You're not doing more shows. They're already done.
Yes.
They're translated. And so there's a lot of really interesting ways that you can do that through sales automation and more. That's again a 30,000 foot view, but it's effective. So
right. I can imagine that at the end, at least that initial process, people get pretty charged when they see the potential, right, of what could be.
Oh, totally.
That's gotta be exciting, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It's cool. It's cool. And then on the other hand, too, it's like it depends on who if you're trying to take down Joe Rogan, it's not going to be cheap.
Understood.
You know what I mean? So it's like that part. Kind of brings people back down. But the cool thing is there's always a map. Basically, budget dictates reach and speed at which you will see success. So if we have a small budget, let's just take over the state you're in. Like everybody in your backyard should know who you are in a 500-mile radius. Cool, let's start there and then work our way up. But if we needed it yesterday and it's private equity funded for some reason or Spotify bought you, then maybe we can go after a globe, the whole globe instantly. So,
right.
But yeah, that's kind of the barrier to entry. But the cool thing is you can always, just like personal development, start small. It's still better than nothing, right? So, yeah.
Well, and for me, and on the lines of starting small, it's start, right? I think take that step and start, right? I think that's kind of where you'll find the biggest success. And that's just hard. I mean, if it's because sometimes it's a different way of thinking, a different manner of operating. I think what's different, and maybe in your case specifically, is that founders are coming to you.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And or maybe you might reach out to some outreach as well, but they're coming to you. So when I say coming, they already in their mind know that there's something they want to do different. There's something they want to change. That's got to make the conversation a bit easier, I'd imagine, right?
It does. I would say, so we would call that inbound traffic, right? People, it's kind of like you're sitting out on a fishing line and you're getting nibbles. They're wanting the food. And so they connect, but outbound is also something we do. This is a form of outbound. And so it's basically just being an industry thought leader in a space and trying to provide free value and actually help people think differently. They may not think they need anything, some of them, right? And it's like, well, you could do A, B, and C better and triple your growth next year if you got on these platforms that you didn't know existed. And so, sometimes I think both are important as a business owner, just in general, both places, giving back, but also helping people ready for help. So
yes, on both sides. So you got both sides of the equation covered.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
I would imagine that with a wide sort of cross section of companies that you're involved with, that you see some that maybe they've achieved some high level of success of some sort. With success, you got to be careful as well too, because the speed of your success might crash and burn real quickly, right? Like, so is that sort of a process that you also are involved with or help companies with?
Yeah, the way that I would channel that through and just give you some real life examples is maybe you do have some budget and you're ready to grow. And then all of a sudden, things you don't think about are, I have 15,000 new customers each month and I have a company of 3. How are we going to do this? And so one of the things that we set people up, again, through that workshop up front, through that process, we learn all this stuff through discovery and onboarding. But on the back end, tools that we have, I'm a huge fan of this, automation.
Ah,
So we've
yes.
been doing AI dev for a while. We had an NLP, natural language processing platform
Okay.
prior, prior to Chat GTP and all this stuff even publicly coming out. But the whole point of that is if we can, you start doing interviews with owners and they're like, man, well, somebody comes in, well, they want a quote. Well, what's a quote look like? Well, I need, if it's in solar, I need their address, their zip code, maybe even their own variation legally of what they think their credit is, good, bad. You can't officially ask people that, but you can ask them to give you a hint.
Sure.
And then it's like, do you own your house? This, that, and the other, all this criteria. And like that takes phone time from people. That could be a survey. That could be schedule your consultation, your free quote in less than 24/7. Next steps, fill out this short survey. So by the time step 3 takes place, you send a salesperson out. They already have that information. They already have the quote ready, or you could just automate the quote. So that could be a good or bad example, but I try to look for a lot of those self-filtering, self-qualifying automation opportunities. Maybe we could, if it's a product company, we can actually drive people through sales automation, get their shopping carts ready, have them check out and buy a product or service without anyone even talking to them. Because we've done video content and
Right.
more, and you're able to sell yourself with your charisma. So that's the first thing I look for a lot of folks, especially if it's legacy companies that they've inherited. They're still running file cabinets, and it's like there's a lot of really quick tweaks where you can just bump and take on more business. And same with recruiting, you can repurpose
Mm.
marketing for recruiting too.
Oh.
So anyway, I won't go into a deep rabbit hole there, but yeah, you
No,
definitely.
I get you. And I know we've talked about legacy companies before. I would imagine they present their own inherent challenges, because
Yeah,
they've had success in the past, but the way they've gotten the success is a whole different realm and a whole different area. Now, my grandfather's company is now in my hands. I'm going, what the heck? Like,
totally.
what do
It
I do?
is. So you have like pretty obvious challenges or infrastructure, right? So if you're trying to automate or do things differently, they might go, whoa, just we're running a manufacturing company. Like, how do we get from here to here mentally? But I'd say 99% of the time, all of that stuff is overcomable. The 1% that keeps you from jumping in is typically fear and ego. And I know I'm
Okay.
the guy on the other
Ah,
side of the screen saying that, but it's like, we've done this for 45 years and
ah,
dad knows
yeah,
everybody.
yeah.
We never need to put a dollar into marketing because we get referrals. And it's like, all of your referrals are turning it over to younger generations who stare at their phones 24/7, do A, B, and C. People are shopping different. So you've just subscribed to slowly suffocating the business versus adapting, like we talked about already, and kind of trying to evolve with the times. Is weird as that sounds, and I know I hope listeners aren't like, oh, this young blah blah blah, but
Yeah.
I'm just trying to help. And the cool thing is you can get a lot of that knowledge for free. We give it away for free all the time, and if they
Right.
want our help executing, we will. But it's worth thinking about.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Well, I think within that there's the change of mindset, right? So again, you talked about the ego and how that kind of gets in the way. It's pushing past that and being able to say, no, look, what we did was cool and
yeah,
it got us to a great place, but now we got to switch it up,
that's
right?
right. Yeah, or
And
at
that's
least see if anything else exists, even if everything's going well. Just kind of like your car. Your car is running fine right now. Do you still take it in to get an oil change? Do you still take it in to get a checkup here and there? Yeah, you should do that because
right,
you don't want to
right.
be caught off guard. That's for sure.
That's it. That's it. No, it makes listen, Tyler, it makes total sense. And I think the manner in which you framed it and explained it. And again, this isn't a business podcast, but I
Right.
understand everything that you've said because it very much resonates with how we can improve in our own personal lives. So I want to
Right.
thank you for that context. I think it's really helpful. For our listeners that want to learn more about you, or maybe there's a founder out there that's tapping in that goes, oh, wait a second, you can help me do what? Where could we send them?
Sure. Tyler at nuclearnetworking.com. That's my email. Feel free to email me directly and happy to chat. And to your point, and I am stuck and I speak business language a lot, but the same is true for personal development, right?
Yeah,
It's a lot of people serve others and they sometimes against their will. You got kiddos at home, you have to put them first, right? But it's like get a checkup on yourself too once in a while. You got to take care of yourself so you can better serve others. And so that's transferable knowledge for sure from both sides.
That's awesome. Tyler, I really, really appreciate you taking the time and doing this. A lot of fun. I appreciate the insights, and again, really eye-opening and insightful. So thank you for the time. Congratulations, and keep up the great work.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. Back we are here on the podcast, and I want to send my thanks and appreciation for Tyler for being here. Thank you for sharing your business insights and on growing and getting to that next level. It was very, very much appreciated. Like I said off the top, much of what Tyler said can be applied to our everyday lives, and I think it really served as an excellent lesson of things that we can do to get better. So again, Tyler, thank you for being here. When I think back to the chat that we just had, I really appreciated so much of what Tyler had to say, but if there's just one thing that I would take from my conversation with him, it would be this. It was Napoleon Hill who once said, "Strength and growth come only through continuous effort and struggle." Personal growth is a lifelong journey that's continuous and can be challenging at times. What makes personal growth hard is that it requires you to make a major shift in your life, especially around attitudes, behaviors, relationships, and values. You can't do the same thing over and over again and expect different results. And the significant point here is that the shift has to be made to what it fits and what's best for you. It has to be on your clock and your schedule, regardless of what's happening around you. People who intentionally set out to enrich their lives through self-growth and development report that they're happier, more successful, and have better relationships. The need for personal growth and taking charge of our own lives gives individuals the push they need to become better people and adapt habits and mechanisms that can help them advance in their career and in their personal, audacious lives. We've come to the end of another episode of the Audacious Living Podcast, and as always, I send my thanks and appreciation to our amazing listeners and all those lovers of audaciousness for this tremendous and ongoing support. It's always appreciated, so thank you oh so much. Until next time, stay safe, be kind, show love to one another, and be audacious.
You've been listening to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by Audacious Stevenson. If you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, be audacious.